If you're looking for some interesting plants to kind of spark up the patio, come on down to Terra Gardens, and I'm with Dan. And Dan, you really have some things that maybe are just a little bit more unique for our patios this year.
Yeah, we try to have some cool things that people can come in and use in their patios, and maybe a transition zone between the house and outside.
Sure.
Because people get tired of having the same thing that everybody else has, so they want something that looks a little bit unique.
And you know, citrus really fits that bill, because who wouldn't want something fragrant and mixed fruit on your patio?
Yeah, the wonderful thing about citrus is that it does have that fragrance when it blooms, and unlike a lot of plants, it doesn't have a fixed time that it blooms. It blooms most of the year and produces fruit early in the year, which is really nice.
And pretty easy to take care of.
It is really easy to take care of. The main thing is just to keep it fed and watered.
Nice. And I see you have some interesting kind of blooming plants here. So what is this one? It always reminds me of Hawaii.
Yeah, the Anthurium is a really popular plant. It likes to stay continuously moist, but the beautiful flowers on it look almost fake because they're so abnormal in their appearance. And it comes in a lot of different shades, anywhere from straight green to deep red or even burgundy now.
And this probably you need to feed too to keep it blooming?
You got to feed it on a regular basis to keep it blooming, yes.
All right. And then I see some water plants, and so that's really interesting.
You know, the water plants have been really popular, especially the Sarracenia, because they are a carnivorous plant. There's a lot of interest lately in carnivorous plants. And this is one of our favorites because it's so easy to grow. And unlike a lot of carnivorous plants, this one can be grown outside here, especially in bog gardens, places where it can be kept consistently moist. And it'll get much larger outside.
Oh, wow. And really different kind of varieties, too. There's not just one to kind of choose from. That's cool.
Yeah, it gives you choices in color, and a lot of people want to match a certain palette color.
Definitely. And then this looks like an interesting kind of foliage plant with all those spots.
You know, we don't see a lot of caladium in the Northwest, but I really like this one. It's called poison arrow frog because it has the same coloration of them with the red spots, but I thought it really stood out on the bench.
Very pretty. And then, you know, this is an old-fashioned plant, but I still love it.
The shrimp plant.
Yeah, really
The shrimp
cool.
plant is one of my favorites. It has such a unique flower. They look like shrimp coming out of the plant. And one of the things that we tell people is the shrimp plants get hungry as the weather gets warm. So we want to keep them fed a little bit heavier as the weather warms up. And then also the older flowers on the top of the plant, pinch them out when they start to get dark coloration on them.
Okay.
And the plant will stay much nicer looking longer.
So just a little deadheading.
Yeah.
Really easy.
And they live for years, which is nice.
Oh, very nice. And then Bougainvillea, this one's beautiful, and it has variegated foliage.
The variegated foliage on the Bougainvillea stands out really nice because then you have a beautiful plant even when it's not in bloom. Their bloom time is very long, and this particular one tends to be one of our favorites for making bonsai as well.
Oh, wow. And so this has to come in, though, for winter?
It does have to come in for the winter. That one's not cold hardy.
Okay. And then, but one is cold hardy is a gardenia called Frostproof, which is
great.
Yes.
Yeah, the name tells you it all.
That's easy.
It is a very cold hardy gardenia. And of course, you can't smell it on film, but out here we can smell the gardenias blooming, and that's that wonderful scent that people like to fill their yard with.
And then what kind of care for that one?
For the gardenias, they like a slightly acidic soil, and they do better in shade or partial shade, and they can tolerate quite a bit of sun, but they like especially that afternoon shade. They do really well that way. The flowers last much longer.
Okay, then you really want that.
Yes, the longer they last, the better.
And then a hanging basket, really something different here.
Yeah, the Mandevilla is an odd choice for a hanging basket. You normally don't see that. You see it in big containers.
That's a great idea.
The Sun Parasol series, this one is pink. The pretty pink Sun Parasol, they're all a little bit more dwarfing compared to a regular Mandevilla, so you don't get this huge sprawling plant, but a more controllable plant, and they make a great hanging basket. You can see it. It loves to be in a container. It blooms for a very long time, and if you take it inside, you can keep it over the winter.
That's really a great tip, too.
That helps.
So really, these are very affordable because you have that, even if they're kind of tender, you can bring them in for winter time, which is a really nice attribute to them.
Yes, and a lot of the plants with just a little bit of trimming here and there, you can keep them for a very long time, and you can always pot them up and get a larger plant later.
Well, you know, you have to come out to Terra Gardens, talk with Dan and his staff, and really get something interesting that your neighbors are really going to be envious of. Thanks, Dan. Really interesting.
Thank you, Judy.